Hey, welcome to This Mama's House. Let's cook together today. Hey guys, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Tabitha from thismamashouse.com. I have some fun things that I want to cook in the kitchen today, and I'm bringing you along with. If you are new, I'd love to have you subscribe. On this channel, I share all sorts of homemaking motivation, and for the next few months, I'm going to be sharing all about food. There's going to be lots of cooking videos, grocery hauls, meal plans, freezer meal prep, all of that kind of stuff. So stay tuned and subscribe. It's gonna be a lot of fun because who doesn't like a good recipe? If you do like these types of videos, definitely give this one a thumbs up. That way I know that you love to see me cook and I can do this video more often. The first two things that I want to get started are some bread in my bread machine and also some vegetable broth in my crock pot. So let's get that started right now. Just realized I'm pretty much out of bread flour. I definitely don't have enough for this recipe. So you can actually make your own bread flour at home using all-purpose flour. All you need to do is have 4 cups of all-purpose flour, then remove 5 teaspoons and replace those 5 teaspoons with Vital Wheat gluten. I got this Vital Wheat gluten from Azure, but I'm sure you can get it elsewhere. It literally just looks like flour. It's a little bit of a darker color, but that's all you need to do to make your own bread flour. I'm going to be using my friend Katie's recipe for this bread machine bread loaf. She also has the same exact bread machine that I do. It's a Zojarewski. I'll leave it linked in the description box, and I'll also leave her channel linked. She has amazing videos about food. You'll love her channel if you don't already subscribe to her. But if you want to follow the same recipe, here it is. So you can just screenshot this and use it for yourself. So let's get it going. The bread machine just started going, and I've gotten all the things out for the vegetable broth. This is what sparked the idea because this bag is getting pretty full. This is just vegetable scraps that I save and put in the freezer, and then once it's pretty full, then I know it's time to make some broth. But I also have these crazy onions that I'm gonna add. I'm gonna chop them up and, you know, just make sure they're all right to eat still. And turn into broth, put those in. This tomato thing, I had this delivered and I did not think it was this big, but this is a huge bowl of tomatoes. I'm the only one that likes them, so I'm not gonna be able to finish these in time. So I'm gonna add a bunch of those to the broth. I had these tomatoes from taco night and cilantro from taco night. These like shriveled up pieces of garlic. I also have these garlics, but I plan on doing something else with those after I get this vegetable broth started. I might add a couple in this broth though. I'll add a little splash of apple cider vinegar, a splash of avocado, some salt and pepper. Some of these I need to toss in there, and then also some bay leaves. Homemade vegetable broth is so easy. There's only a couple things to keep in mind. Sometimes a batch can become a bit bitter depending on what vegetables you use. So as a general rule of thumb, don't use too many onion skins and avoid using cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower. And if your broth does end up tasting a bit bitter, you can add a splash of lemon juice or apple cider vinegar and a bit of sugar. I've even seen some people recommend pureeing apples and adding that to the broth to cut the bitterness and add a little bit of sweetness. But all in all, this is a great way to use up your vegetable scraps and keep food waste to a minimum. And then you always have homemade broth, and it's so cost effective. These are a lot of times vegetable scraps that you would throw away. So now you're actually getting use out of them, and you won't have to buy broth for soups. Okay, the next recipe I'm going to work on is some garlic confit herbed butter. Sounds amazing, and I have never made this, but I'm going to try. So I have this peeled garlic, which makes my life so much easier, and I'm just going to be putting it right in this bowl, and I'm going to cover this completely with olive oil. Now I'm adding a little bit of thyme. Okay, a lot of thyme. And I'm gonna cook this in the oven for 2 hours at 250 degrees. The next thing I'm gonna do is make some homemade butter. I have this raw cow's milk here, and you can actually see the line here where the milk and cream has separated. So now I'm going to kind of ladle best I can the cream off and put it in my KitchenAid mixer. Now I'm going to just attach the whisk attachment. And let it go. At this point, we're pretty close to whipped cream consistency. But the longer this keeps going, the milk solids are just going to separate from the milk and we'll have butter. Alright. It worked! Yay! So now we have butter and buttermilk. If you could smell it in here, it smells so good. I am now getting out the supplies to make buttermilk biscuits. I have buttermilk, so of course, what other thing would I make? I like to have things ready for breakfast the night before as much as possible. So I think having some biscuits with jam in the morning will be perfect. So I'm gonna make those right now. While I was in the spice cabinet, I saw this Italian seasoning and I think I'm gonna add a pinch to the vegetable broth. It smells really good. It's on high slow cooker mode, but I think I might put it on stovetop mode and kind of simmer it now. It's been on high for 2 hours. All right, we're gonna have it simmer now. Hopefully that'll be good. And I've been trying to clean as I go, but yeah, that's not working out. We have a lot to clean up today in the kitchen. While we are cooking up some good food for our bellies, let me share some food for your soul. I recently saw a powerful quote on Instagram by Andrea Burke. It said, "You don't need a platform, you don't need everyone to know your name, or the attention of 1 million followers. You can leave the greatest legacy simply by being faithful in your quiet life. The ones who impress the least, who live in small towns and are forgotten by 99% of the world, are the ones who change generations. Be faithful in your field, bake some cookies, love those wild kids, whisper their names at bedtime before the Lord. Trust Him with the rest." I loved this quote and it really resonated with me. I like to always say, you've probably heard me say it before, glorify God in your simple every day. And I feel like this quote totally embodies my little slogan I've come up with for this mama's house. Because it's true. The mothers who are faithful in their homemaking duties are the real world changers. We are raising up the new generation. So it's so important to be faithful in this task of being a mother. And along with being a mother comes so many responsibilities. The cooking, the cleaning is often up to us. And if we can diligently work each day and fulfill our job in this role, then we can really show our children what it means to serve others and to be selfless. And I think that's something that's so important to model for our kids. Your house doesn't have to be perfectly clean and you don't have to have the most epic meals every single night, but just diligently working as for the Lord. And I also think that your homemaking can be a form of worship. There might be times when it feels like drudgery. It might feel overwhelming, the amount of things that you have to do. But it can be a form of worship because you know that you're obeying God in your current vocation. And if you're a wife and mother and you're a stay-at-home mom like me, this is your vocation and you should be doing your very best every day. And that's always what I like to tell you guys. Like, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have, everything figured out. But if you're going to bed each night and you just know that you've done your very best and you can feel confident that you're putting your all into your motherhood, then I feel like you can rest easy. So, like the quote said, you don't need 1 million followers. You don't need everyone to know your name. You just need to be taking care of what's inside your home. And I think often we get wrapped up in social media and Instagram and these Pinterest perfect lives of people that it can make us feel bad about ourselves. It can make us feel apathetic, like we'll never accomplish this perfection, so why even try? So I challenge you to take a step back, put your phone down more often, and look beyond the screen and look around your house and just do what you need to do diligently as to the Lord. We're not working for the approval of all of our Instagram followers. We're not working for gaining all of the subscribers on our YouTube channels. And we aren't here to build a community on Facebook. Our duties is to work for the Most High. We are here to work for an audience of one. So if we can feel confident that we're doing a good job in the eyes of God, then that's when we know we've really won. My bread just beeped. Tommy's excited about it. But I think I'm gonna rub some butter on the top. Oh man, it smells amazing in here. I just pulled this garlic out so I could put the biscuits in, and it looks so golden and smells amazing. So I strained the garlic from the oil, and I wanted to save this oil because later I'm going to be making a homemade salad dressing. And I have seen this done quite a few times where you put the garlic in oil and bake it in the oven. And I've always wanted to try it, and I'm so glad I did. I think this is going to be like a new weekly staple in our house because we love garlic around here. And it's just so tasty. So I decided I wanted to make a little bit of a garlic confit. Is it confit? Is it confit? I'm not really sure exactly how to say it, but it makes me sound fancy either way. But I just put my homemade butter in at my food processor along with some onion powder and parsley and all of those garlic cloves. and I just blended it all up and made a delicious garlic butter spread. We used this on toast this week, and when we cooked up some steaks, we cooked it in this garlic butter. It's so good, and I think it would make a really good garlic bread too. So tasty. You guys should really try this. It's so good. And you can buy huge bags of already peeled garlic from Sam's Club and Costco. So that's definitely the way to go when you want to save time. But let me know in the comments, are you a garlic girl? Because I sure am. I could eat it all day just by the clove. It's so good. My husband even bought some pickled garlic recently. That is so tasty. And anytime I'm feeling sick, which I kind of am right now, I will just munch on those pickled garlic cloves, and I swear it helps me feel better so much faster. All right, I am done making all the fun stuff. Now it's time to move on to making actual dinner for us tonight. I'm gonna have an iced coffee first. So I've got my ice in here. I'm gonna put a little bit of this caramel syrup in here. Then I'm gonna drizzle honey over the ice. Maybe like, I don't know, a tablespoon. Coffee that we brewed this morning, but it's now cold. A little splash of half and half. All right, for dinner we are gonna make spaghetti in the Instapot. If you've never tried Instapot biscotti, at least I didn't say that right. I'm not 5 years old anymore. If you've never tried Instapot spaghetti, you really should, because it's so easy and so tasty. So you just brown 1 pound of ground beef. You can add seasonings to it if you'd like to. You don't have to. But then you take a pound of spaghetti, break the noodles in half, and layer them crisscross over the meat. Then you add a 24-ounce jar of marinara spaghetti sauce and a can of plain sauce, or you can do a can of diced tomatoes. We don't really prefer the chunkiness of diced tomatoes, so we just add in a can of sauce. And then you're gonna fill up that jar 1.5 times and add the water to it. And then I did add some seasoning, some Italian seasoning and garlic and onion. And then you seal your Instapot and you set it for 8 minutes. And that's all it takes to make Instapot spaghetti. It is so, so tasty. You'll see how it looks here in just a minute when it's all done. But while that was cooking up, I decided to make a little side salad. We had some greens left in the fridge, some cauliflower that needed to be eaten up, as well as cucumber. So I just chopped that all up, tossed it together. I did add some blue cheese crumbles on top as well, and then walnuts for just my husband and I. My kids didn't want walnuts, so I didn't left that out. And then I made a homemade dressing to go with it, with that oil from the garlic confit. I really should look up how to pronounce this before I start filming a voiceover. But anyways, the garlic oil is what I used to make the dressing. So all I did was take the oil, and then I added some balsamic vinaigrette as well as some seasonings. So I did salt and pepper and Italian seasoning, garlic, onion, and then a little bit of sugar as well. And then, like I said, I just put probably equal parts of the balsamic vinegar as well, and just whisked it all together. So now that the spaghetti is done cooking, I quick released to let the steam out. And while that was sitting, I got started on the Focaccia Breadsticks, which is from my Jordan Page Shelf Cooking Cookbook. We have made this garlic bread, Focaccia breadstick, whatever you want to call it, breadstick recipe so many times since I got this cookbook. It is so good. It comes together so easily. I just use my stand mixer. I put the ingredients in there, and then you let it sit for about 10 minutes, and then you pour a 1/4 cup of butter onto a sheet pan and just spread out the dough to cover the whole sheet pan. Now this kind of takes a few minutes, and you just kind of have to keep working it, stretching it, and eventually it goes over the whole pan. And then you add another 1/4 cup of butter on top of the breadsticks. Now I know that sounds like a lot of butter, and it is, but whew, these taste so good, so it's so worth it. And then after you spread the butter on top, you can add some seasoning. So I did garlic, salt, and then also Parmesan cheese. And then I used my little bench scraper to cut them into the breadstick shape. But you can also just use a pizza cutter too. Then you cook them in the oven for only 20 minutes and you have homemade breadsticks. So really it takes maybe 30 to 40 minutes to make these homemade breadsticks, and they are so much tastier than the ones you get frozen in a box. So now that the vegetable broth is done, I'm just gonna be straining out the liquid. And then I put it in jars and just put the jars in the freezer. If you leave a little bit of headspace at the top of the jar, it expands and you won't have any cracked jars, especially if you let it cool before you put it in the freezer. But that's what I did. You could also like can it if you wanted to, or freeze it in bags. I thought about freeze drying the vegetable broth, but I decided to just straight up freeze it. All right, now it is time to serve up this amazing meal that I made for my family and enjoy a good dinner after all this work in the kitchen. Pretty successful day in the kitchen. Thanks so much for joining me. It's time to eat dinner. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments what other type of cooking videos you'd like to see, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.